This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to asics.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you will receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on asics.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas from Believe in the Run.
This is Megan with Believe in the Run.
And this is Megan with Featherstone Nutrition.
Feathers.
I noticed you said from Believe in the Run. Is it because with it's too hard?
It's too hard for me. I think that my tongue is not working when I try to say that. I don't know. It's a TH thing.
Says Thomas.
Yeah, but we don't say Thomas. We say Thomas.
Okay.
So maybe it's Wit. Thomas, Wit, Believe in the Run.
I want to start calling you Thomas.
You can. You can call me Thomas or Thommy.
Thommy.
Yeah, Thommy. I look like a Thommy, right?
Yeah, you're Thommy. Yeah.
But you're Feathers.
Yeah.
And it's sticking. I believe, I can't remember the last time we went to like a group event or a group run where I didn't hear someone at least approach you and call you Feathers. Like, I don't think anybody calls you Megan at that.
I think it's especially when we're in the same place, just because it distinguishes Megan.
Maybe we need like
Feathers.
a nickname for Murray over here.
What would that be?
Well, yours kind of came naturally with Featherston, so I'll put some work into this one. I used to call her Little Bird. So that works with the feathers. Feathers and Little Bird.
Kind of, yeah.
Little Bird. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway,
all right, Little Bird, what do we got?
You are listening to Fuel for the Soul, and we are going to talk all things hydration and nutrition and how it affects performance. And this one is exciting because it's that time of year, and we're going to talk all about fall marathoning.
Maybe we change the name of the show to Feathers, Little Bird, and Thommy.
I mean, people would be like, I need to listen to that. What is this?
Yeah, what is Little Bird and Feathers?
What is this?
I'll put it on for my children. They'll probably learn the ABCs.
Speaking of, we did the Teen and Athlete podcast that just came out recently, and I've had a lot of people writing in saying thank you for answering their questions, because remember, we answered like a ton of listener questions, and they played it for their kids. So the question about Prime, she played it for her son and was like, this is what they're thinking. So hopefully we're trickling down and helping families a little more too from that episode, which is cool.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Okay, so we're going to dive into sort of each of the major marathons, so Berlin, Chicago, and New York City. And then, Megan, I know you polled people on Instagram to get their tips as well, so we'll share all of those things. But before we do that, let's just talk in general, race day, prep, and all that good stuff. What are some of the things people need to be thinking about?
So we've got 5 different things that we really want to nail down when we're thinking about our fall race, regardless of which race we have chose to do. This would probably be the most pertinent to half marathons and full marathons, right? When we're out there a little bit longer. But the very first thing we want to do, we don't need to be obsessive, but we want to check the weather, and we want to compare the weather back to what we trained in over the summer, so we know how to adjust our hydration needs. So if we were training in a swamp over the summer, 80s, 90s, high humidity, and we're hit on race day with the perfect day in the 40s or maybe low 50s, we're not going to need the same hydration that we needed for these long runs in the 80s. Maybe the dew point was 75 for most of our long runs. Like, it's going to look a little bit different. So I do want people to be aware and thinking about how that weather change is going to impact how much hydration they need, because we don't need to force that amount of fluid if it's much cooler and we're not sweating as much.
When you said we don't need to be obsessive about the weather,
Yeah.
how often are we talking here?
Let's say obsessive. In this household, it starts to drive me nuts because Meg here will pull up as soon as it's like 2 weeks out.
That's when they start showing it.
10-day forecast.
And then I start checking.
Yeah, but she checks it like 3 times a day. Like, is it going to change in the next hour or 2 hours?
You'd be surprised how much it changes from when you
that's what
look
I'm
2
saying.
weeks
So
out to 3.
Why worry about it? Just wait.
I can't
till
help
the time.
myself. I cannot help myself.
So today is September 11th, and I have been watching Berlin's weather for at least a week. So I am guilty as well.
What are the trends? What are we looking at here?
Well, it was really, really hot there for a while. Like, I think they had a heat wave, and then it dropped to really cool. And now it's back to like normal weather for them, which is like mid 50s to mid 70s. So I'm hoping that we'll get like another cool front after this comes through for us.
Now,
But,
last year when you ran it, you were in the high 60s, right?
Yeah, so last year it wasn't my ideal racing weather, and I could tell other people were struggling. It was about like 56 at the start, but it felt humid. Like usually in the 50s you don't feel humidity, but I remember being like at mile 3 like already sweating. Like I can tell it's humid, it's starting to warm up. And I think it was in like the 66, 67 when we finished. So I mean not terrible, but
That's pretty
most of
warm.
us would prefer it 10 degrees cooler. Yeah.
At least, yeah. That's the thing. So in that one, you saw people coming in with salt dripping off them.
It was carnage the last, like through the Brandenburg Gate to the finish, which I don't know, it's maybe 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. It was carnage. Yeah.
So for example, with Berlin, and I'm probably jumping ahead here,
That's
but
right.
that course doesn't have electrolyte drinks on course. You just have the water, but you can put a bottle or bring your own stuff. But you think, like if it was 50 degrees and fine, and you pre-salted the night before with your hydration drink, you're probably going to be okay with water on the course and maybe your gels and whatever, salt you have in there. If you're really worried about it, bring a salt pill or something like that. But you can probably get by. In that situation where it got up to 67, that's where you have to be looking at the weather so you can say, hey, maybe I need to bring a bottle with electrolytes in it. It's a little warmer than optimal race conditions. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, everybody's different, and what we've trained through versus what is our preferred temperature is going to be different, right? But when we look at the research, most people's performance starts to take a little bit of a hit once we hit 60 or higher for a marathon, which is wild to think about, right? Thinking of what we train through in the summer. So if we're using kind of that threshold, to your point, Thomas, like if it's going to be in the 60s or hotter, I think that's where we need to be intentional about knowing ourselves. Are you a heavy, salty sweater? If so, what are you going to do to help support your performance to keep you from, starting to fade and your paces to drop because of that heat? So, for me, I had, high sodium drink in my bottle. I'd stashed a few bottles. So like I wouldn't need to do that if it was 40 degrees, like when I ran Chicago, right? Like one bottle was totally fine throughout the race. So that's where it's nice for anyone who's been doing this for a little while to get to know our bodies. Like, how do I perform in different weather? What do I need from a hydration standpoint? So, carry some extra stuff on you if you're not to the point where you know that quite yet. If you've got some salt pills or some salt chews, like take them along, right? What if you need them? If you've got some family members on the course, leave something with them in case you need it. Just make sure that you have some options while you're out there. And then, as we always say on here, it's never going to hurt to carry what you're used to using, at least for the first half of the race.
How come Germany or Berlin doesn't have hydration on the course that's like a Gatorade or that's typically what you get in the U.S. Obviously, what did we have in
Lucozade. Isn't that something?
Lucozade.
That was London.
And then Pocari Sweat.
Pocari Sweat.
Yeah. Pocari, however you say it. Yeah.
Pocari Sweat.
So they do have the Morton 160 on course. So I think that's like what they're putting out instead of water. But as we know, that really doesn't have many electrolytes in it either. Yeah. To me, that's more
nice.
of a fuel and less of a electrolyte drink, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They do have that on course?
They do. Yeah.
Sick. That's awesome.
We'll talk about
that kind of flows into, I think, your second bullet point of knowing what is on course. But before we get to that, you said, Megan, just to carry something extra if you're unsure about, what you'll need out there. And it's funny because in our other podcast, The Drop, which will be out before this, but I talked about the 12 miler that I texted you about the day before. And I was like, I'm just going to do one before, one halfway. How does that sound? And you were like, no, I think you need to treat this like a half and take 2 out there and 1 before. Yeah. And when you sent that, I was like, sounds like overkill, but I'll just pack them just in case. And it literally saved my life on race day. And so I'm always like, just carry more. If you don't use it, you don't use it, but just have the option when you're out there in case you do feel like you need it.
Also,
Right.
Megan won that race, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't slide by. First
Champion.
place female.
I love it. I love it. Yep.
But anyway, so back to knowing what's on course, like how should someone even go about that?
So we can get on the race's website. So honestly, what I always Google sometimes the websites are really clunky for like especially smaller races. No offense, but so I will always Google the name of the race, aid station, hydration, aid station gels, like because most of the time then it'll populate their aid station portion on their website, and then you can kind of grab that. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. But it is really important to know. A, what do they have, right? What electrolyte drink they have? Are you going to use that? And then B, especially for smaller races, like how frequently are there aid stations? I've had some people run some smaller races that there's aid stations every like 5 to 8K. Most of us probably need fluid more frequently than that, especially if we need to line up fluid with the type of gel we're taking. So those are the important things to know. Do I need to carry because of where the aid stations are? Do I not like the electrolyte drink on course and water doesn't do it for me? Am I going to use water and just stick with the course and carry my own sodium? So there's a million ways we can achieve this, but we certainly want to know what is going to be out there and where, so that then we can make our plan in the background of what we need to bring with us.
I wish they put flat, like, when you're doing an ultra, they'll have like flat Coca-Cola out, and it's like the perfect like pick-me-ups with the caffeine and the sugar and the whole thing. Like, how come that hasn't translated to regular racing? I would love flat Coke.
Gatorade and Coca-Cola are those competitors? That's probably why.
Aren't they the same? I think Powerade's Pepsi and Gatorade's Coke, right?
No, Powerade's Coke, I think, and Gatorade might be.
I don't know. Don't quote me on any of this.
I don't know. Anyway, like that seems like, I know that Morton is basically energy and it's coming from some form of glucose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's glucose and fructose.
Isn't that what's in Coca-Cola? And it has caffeine?
Yeah.
Plus, it tastes a lot very good.
It's all right. They're not giving us anything for free. I still pay for my Mortons. I don't know about you guys.
I
bought a case of Morton solid bars to carb load with in case you guys need some.
I do love their solid bars.
I have a lot. I'll bring
really
the box.
Fast in this house.
Did you get chocolate or is it vanilla or non-flavored?
Just the regular one. Yeah.
I like non-flavored.
Non-flavored is what I meant to say.
Non-flavored. But
someone ran 22 miles this morning.
Brain is not functioning.
They like the flavor, no.
Oh man. Okay, so speaking of carb loading.
Yes. Good segue, right?
How much do we want to dive into that? And also, Thomas was talking before this. There's a ton of information. I feel like right now on Instagram that is just false information going around about like everything sports nutrition related, whether it's carbs or whatever, eat this, don't eat that, this is bad, this is good. And I have seen a few people posting about carb loading and if it actually works. And so can you please tell us the science behind it?
I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually a really good point because I've been a little bit inundated, probably because my algorithm is nutrition, with people posting about carb loading. And my first thing before I even watch it, I'm like, who is this person? And I click on their profile. I'm like, what is their background? None of them are sports dietitians. So while other people have education and information and can read research and can talk about the concept of carb loading, I kind of put it in like, I'm not out there doing exercise testing on people and telling them how to train, right? Like that's not my expertise. My expertise is sports nutrition. So I try to stay in that lane, right? But we see a lot of people jogging into the nutrition lane because we all eat, right? And we can all read research. So we all kind of feel like we can put that out there. So not to say that they're, depending on who the person is, the information's wrong, right? I'm not saying that at all. Maybe it's great information, but I do want people to be skeptical of what is this person's expertise do they have the knowledge, the background, the application? I mean, think of how many people I've helped carb load, right? Like anything that could possibly come up, I'm sure has come up, and we have, circumvented whatever issue it was. So just be wary of where this information is coming from. And then, reach out to me if you have questions. People send me reels all the time. They're like, is this true? And I'm like, please just delete that. Don't listen,
Yeah. I think there's two things that happen. I think you get people who maybe they're giving their own personal experience. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to be helpful on what they've learned, and they're sharing that. And it may not be scientific. It may have worked for them, and it may have improved for them. But as you know, like Megan tried everything before she could figure out her leg cramps before we could get to that point. And like she was taking hot shots, everything. So, that you have to take with a grain of salt. But the other thing I think that you see is kind of mockingbird syndrome, where and I find, and no offense to coaches, but I find it mostly with people that are coaches on Instagram that, and I'm not talking about like your high level coaches, but like people that like take the test and now are coaches or whatever. That, it's like, you want to be like, well, who have you worked with? Who have this? But they see a Featherston nutrition post, or they see another nutritionist post, and they just rehash and regurgitate that information without maybe having I feel like even though you put out that information, you're open-minded enough to be like, if new information comes along, or if another research study comes along, you will shift. Like, okay, it turns out I used to recommend this many carbs for carb loading per pound of weight, but they just did a test and it had 1,000 people in the test, and here's now how that changes. And it's also going to change. Basically, they did a gender test. Like you'll go into the nitty gritty, where I feel like some of the other stuff we hear is like echo chamber stuff. But the ones that get me really confused are like the guy who came on as a cardiologist, and he tells me, eat eggs, eat this stuff. And I'm like, that sounds good. He's telling me stuff I want to hear. Like, yes, I want to eat that stuff.
Right.
And he's like,
he also said that oatmeal was a terrible food to eat. And so I said, hey, Thomas, maybe we should not listen to this guy.
Well,
just a thought.
I'm fine with it.
Didn't you, like this time last year when I got to meet Kipchoge after and asked what he ate before the thing, and he said he ate oatmeal? I kid you not, like so many people remixed that with the guy saying oatmeal's bad for you, and they got like millions of views, and I never hit 1 million with mine, and I'm like, they got that better than I did, and it was my content, so it's funny. Yeah. You can always find it.
It's also funny though, because we saw one of the runners for Adidas, a female runner. They're like, what do you eat before the marathon? She's like, I have some black tea and like a cracker, or
it was a piece of toast,
of toast and some black tea. Like nothing, basically.
Yeah. Well, I heard what Kira ate. You guys got some good information on Kira on the drop about what she's been up to eating to fuel her training and her recent win at the 20K in New Haven. And so, yeah, it's cool. Follow the people who are fueling well. Let's just, follow them.
And if you look at the podiums recently, like especially in the ultra world and like in general, they're coming out and talking about how much they fuel, and they're winning. We
talked to Clayton,
and so it's exciting to see also, while there are some like negative and non-accurate things on Instagram, there's also some positive, and you can see from the results of people on the podium. And if they're touting, this is what I do, I carb load, I took all this many gels.
It's also a lot different for someone who's running a 2-hour marathon.
Yes.
2 hour and change, maybe 2 hour, 20-minute marathon, and somebody who's going to be out there for 4 or 5 hours. So you have to take in consideration, just because you love them and they're awesome and they can run really fast, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the formula for you.
Yeah. I would be willing to bet that carb loading probably benefits people like the three of us and people in our realm a little more than the elites. If I had to venture a guess, I would say that we're the ones who benefit the most from it.
So carb loading, we're all going to hopefully do it if we're racing a marathon or half marathon. So just give us the general guidelines of what we all need to be doing.
Right. So, back to the Instagram stuff that's out there. There was something I saw recently that was like, you can't carb load more than one day. I'm like, yes, you can, right? So like we can stock our glycogen stores for as long as it takes us to stock our glycogen stores. So most of the research looks at taking in 12 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight for one day. What I've found is that is very hard for most of us. So we could do 2 days at 10 grams, or we could do 3 days at 8 grams, So there's a calculator on my site that I think almost everybody has seen by now. If you haven't, go check it out. You put your height, your weight, your age, all that kind of stuff in there, and it's going to help you figure out how many grams of carbs you need to eat for 2 days or 3 days to make sure that your glycogen stores are fully stocked for race day. Because the goal would be that between the fuel we're taking out there, our breakfast before, and then our fully stocked glycogen stores, that we have what's called high carbohydrate availability, which means our body has access to carbs for our entire 26.2 miles. That's what's going to allow us to sustain race pace for the entire race, which feels totally unfathomable to me at this point, and probably most people listening, that how can I possibly hold that pace for a full marathon? Really tough mental toughness, right? Trusting your training and having high carb availability, right? If we don't have those carbs there is no way that we can hold those paces in the last 10K. So we want to fully carb load to have those extra carbs stored in our muscles, also in our liver, but we're going to use those muscle stores to actually fuel our muscles during the race. And then we want to take our gels early and often, which is the next tip we'll talk about, to make sure that we're never fully exhausting those glycogen stores and then relying on gels. Ideally, we want to rely on both throughout the whole time, right? We want to have some carbs coming in from the gels, choose drinks that we're taking, and we want to be using a little bit of our glycogen stores so that that's where we're getting our carbs throughout the whole race, so we don't completely run out of one or the other.
I want to use race-specific carbs for the location. So like Germany, I want the pretzels. I want the big, Bavarian pretzels or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Chicago, I would, maybe go pizza, but
not
less,
deep dish.
Yeah,
Not the deep dish. That's a
maybe
biscuit.
a little lighter on the cheese, maybe. What else? What could you eat in Chicago that would be native to Chicago?
That's a good question. I've had good bagels in Chicago, but everyone out there is cringing because bagels are not from Chicago. I think pizza would be a good one. I don't know. I'd thought about getting like a food icon from each of the majors, like tattooed down my arm. So it'd be like a pretzel and a bagel and like pizza.
So are you going to give New York the bagel?
Yeah, New York would have to be the bagel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you've got London. I don't know. What do we eat in London?
Lots of potatoes. There's like potatoes everywhere. Yeah.
Chips.
Yeah. Right. Chips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, the chips are the fries.
Mm-hmm.
Crisps are the potato chips.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I totally digress here, but yeah.
Anybody, if you have a comment on what we should think about it for carb loading in Chicago, you can let us know.
Yeah.
So that May can get a tattooed on her.
Right. Why not?
Since none of us are racing, we're just carb loading.
You'll just have a cornucopia on you. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
You could help me design it.
Loading. Yeah. You can do it.
I love it.
Okay. So then if people properly carb load, they should feel slightly doughy in the morning, but not uncomfortable. Just, you're not going to feel like light and cheerful. You're going to
feel gooey.
Yeah. A little bit.
Like you should be like, do I look fat in this singlet?
My muscles are hiding. They should be hiding.
Yeah,
they should be hiding.
Like, somehow this is tighter.
Well, remember, when we're carb loading, we're storing glycogen, which is 1 gram of carbs to 3 grams of water. So we're retaining a decent amount of water. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but it helps.
I use this all hydrating. So I come down looking like the Michelin Man.
There you go. But that's going to benefit
by the end
us.
of the marathon,
looking ripped.
I thin
nice
out.
and dehydrated. Yeah. I love it.
Okay, so talk to us about fueling and what we should be doing out there in general.
Yes. So do not wait to fuel. Do not listen to your gels that say fuel every 45 minutes or start at an hour, right? We've already debunked that piece. Fuel at the start line. So we want to take a gel, a serving of chews, sipping on a high carb beverage, however we plan to fuel during the race. We want to do that like 10 to 15 minutes before the race. And then we want to start our first gel 20, 25, 30 minutes in, however, the cadence that we have practiced in our long runs. So do not wait to fuel. So back 2 years ago in Chicago, I threw out fuel early and often at the expo when we were talking to everybody, getting everybody ready for Chicago. And I loved it when I was asking people for their race tips. I probably got 10 people who said fuel early and often. I was like, yes, it's sticking, right? But honestly, I want you guys to be thinking about that because I see this all the time. Like, I don't feel like I need it yet. Or I get caught up in the excitement of the beginning of the race and all of a sudden 50 minutes have gone by and I haven't fueled. Like, no, if you have to, set an alarm on your watch. I never forget. Like, I'm always like, do I get to take it? Do I get to take it? Do I get to take it? Like, so I don't set an alarm, but a lot of people have found that helpful. So make sure that we're sticking to that again, because we don't want to totally exhaust those glycogen stores. We're going to need those later in the race as well. So we want to make sure that we're getting adequate carbs very early in the race so that we can conserve some of those glycogen stores for the end.
Like the parallel to that for me is if you think about like how good you feel at the beginning of the race, and then maybe you go out a little too fast. Maybe you get caught up in the crowd and you're like, I'm just going to go for it. Today might be the day. And you're in mile 3. You know, it's like.
We joked about that on the other podcast. Every time you go out too fast, you're feeling good. And you're like, today's going to be my day. Yeah. It never.
Well, you never know. I'm going to keep trying.
He's going to do it again, isn't he?
It's the same thing with nutrition. You get out there and you're like, I'm not hungry. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. I'm going. But then it's the same thing where you hit a certain spot and you're like, oh, damn, you're in a deficit. And and now to get there, you're behind and you're probably not going to be like, I'll double up or I'll do the next one in 10 minutes or whatever you're going to do. So you're now stretching it out and you're going to, as the race goes, that deficit's going to grow as well. So that's the problem that I see people facing when they don't.
Yeah. And I mean, we've looked at research and the range of how many grams of carbs we need per hour when we're out there is anywhere from 30 to 100. I mean, it's a crazy range, right? But that's why we practice this to see like, where do we fall in that range? Like what works best for us and our bodies and our goals. So, if we've been practicing with 40 grams an hour, please don't try 100 grams on race day. Your body is not going to accept that, right? So, each race we can try to build to a new, amount or tolerance, if you will, but just kind of know what's been working for you. We could probably push it a little bit, right? Like maybe 5 minutes closer or something like that. But if you're listening to this and you're like, shoot, I'm not fueling enough. My race is next weekend. Don't try something dramatically different, right? Nothing new on race day.
Yeah, don't eat a turkey.
Don't eat a turkey.
On the course. A turkey on the course. I will give a gear tip here because I did have somebody ask in our DMs on Believe in the Run about, they're like, my flip belt's too thick and unbreathable. If I go with the, what's the other belt? There's
Spy belt.
Spy belt, that thing bounces around too much. I really like and have used for several races, the Compressed Sport has a belt. And what's really nice about it, it fits snugly against your body. It comes in like the same like shorts. So it's like medium to large, small to extra small. And then I think there's like large to extra large. But it fits really nicely. Like you can't even tell I'm wearing a belt. Usually my singlet covers it. And I can stack in as many gels as I want. I could run with my phone if I wanted to, have that at the finish. It's just a really useful tool and it doesn't bounce at all. So
that's nice. What was it called again? Compressed Sport?
It's Compressed Sport, and they have a belt. And what I normally do is I put caffeine on one side and plain on the other. And then when I'm running, I just switch it up every different gel.
I like your tip, though, of putting caffeine in one place and non-caff another place, because the whole Russian roulette of, is this going to be the right one? Because we do want to make sure we're timing that caffeine appropriately. So, I like that.
Yeah, we as ladies have some additional options. The sports bra, which, Megan, I don't know if you've gotten the new Bandit one with the side pockets, but that one has the nice pocket in the back for the phone and then the side pockets for gels. And then I carry them in my handheld.
Would you worry about chafing under your arm with a side
Dude,
pocket?
I worry about chafing everywhere now.
I was like, but have you seen Meg and I? We're like chicken arms. Our arms are out so far. Our arms are not touching those gels. Not the way we run.
Before we go into the specifics of each marathon here, is there anywhere else that you store or carry or have recommendations for that I didn't mention?
I mean, obviously for ladies, sports bras, nice shorts. Like a lot of people, there are a lot of different shorts, especially like more of the compression type shorts for men and women. A lot of people just stuff gels down the sides of them. I know when I run,
Where it
like in the
has a phone
winter.
pocket.
Yeah, in the winter, like I'll put them. Flowy shorts with gels that like slap your legs. I can't handle that, but like around the waistband works for me. I've had people put them in arm sleeves, in hats. Like there's other places, but yeah.
See, and here's the thing. Like you may think you can get by with the pockets in the shorts, and maybe your shorts are good shorts that you can, like the ones that now have the compression short underneath that have like the phone pocket. You can certainly get a lot of gels in those. I would recommend though, like you're usually probably carrying 1 to 2, or when you go out on your training run, load that sucker up like you're doing a marathon, so that when you get into marathon, your shorts aren't falling down or you're getting like a weird thing, because you'd be surprised that little annoyance can throw off your whole.
Dude, that was like me in wine glass. At first, it was like mile 2, and my gel fell out of my bottle, and then I couldn't. And I'd never used the bottle before, and then that was falling out of my hand. What a disaster!
I remember that. You're like, I hate this bottle. I'm never using this bottle again.
Yeah, I had to like wrap it around my hand because the strap came. Yeah, it was
terrible.
A nightmare.
So like practicing to take the nutrition, practice carrying the nutrition.
Right, for sure.
All right, let's talk Berlin, because when this comes out, it's coming in hot this weekend.
Yes, so hot.
So talk to us about what's on course, nutrition, hydration.
Yes. So as we alluded to earlier, Morton is the on-course hydration and nutrition sponsor. So we can find one gel station with Morton's on the Berlin course. And it is at
1
kilometer. Yes, just 1 kilometer, 27.5. So we know that's a little late to start gelling. But if you needed to refill or grab an extra, you dropped one, you can grab it at 27.5.
If my math is correct, that's close to half.
It's over half, right?
That's over half. Yeah. That's like 15.
21.5? Did you say?
No, 27.5.
I thought, yeah, right. It
the
is,
half.
Yeah,
42. So,
Yeah. And then there's 6 fuel stations with water and the Morton 160. So there's 6 different spots between kilometer 9 and 36 that you can get the Morton 160 in a cup. The cups at Berlin are plastic, so they do not fold like paper cups. So paper cups, I can't speak. So people who like pinch, right? These are plastic cups, so it's possible they might crack, they might not pinch. So that is a little bit of a different element. Plus, then when there's plastic cups on the ground, watch your footing, folks. Make sure you're not slipping on them.
Do you remember Bottle Guy that was for Kipchoge?
Bottle
Claws.
Yeah. Can anybody have a bike fueling person on Berlin's course?
No.
Technically not. Yes. They have to be part of the marathon, like part of the staff, in order to legally hand you stuff. Yeah. Technically, it's illegal to take things from anyone on course that isn't part.
Okay.
At any race.
On any course,
technically.
on any race.
Yeah. Now,
but people do
we're
it
not
all the time.
winning, if we're not for prize money, like probably doesn't matter. But yeah.
Yeah, if you're already wearing like shoes above 40, millimeters in the heel, you're okay.
Right? You're okay. You're all right. So in Berlin with the hydration piece, like we mentioned before, there's no electrolyte drink. So you could choose to drink the 160 and get a little bit of sodium from it. But like I said before, that's a high carb drink. It's not necessarily what we would be taking for electrolytes, such as other courses have. So there is water, fruit, and tea at 6 aid stations. And then there's just water
tea
at 9, right? Yummy. Sounds delightful at 60 degrees. Someone asked me that, and I didn't experience it last year. So I would assume it's hot, but I did not try it.
It's probably
there's no way.
It's probably not cool.
They don't have hot tea out there.
Yeah.
I would like some hot tea and some finger sandwiches.
Go to Paris. They're the ones who have like a buffet out there.
I actually think for me in Germany, maybe the salt tab is the best alternative for me. Yeah. I don't normally do that, but I know I've tried it in the past. It doesn't really bother me. But do we even have some?
I have tons of salt stick chews and caps. Let me know. I can bring some if you need them.
Okay. Well, I've heard that the chews don't quite have as much sodium in them as you need.
They don't. Well, it depends on how much you need. So like 4 of the chews equal a pill. So you could take 4 versus a pill.
I could do
per
that,
hour. It just kind of depends on if you can take a pill while you're running,
All right, bring me some chews.
Some chews. My kids have been trying all the flavors. I'll make sure I bring you some. Their grubby hands have not been in the sealed ones.
I might have to look and see if we just have.
No, I have plenty that are still sealed. You're fine. So what else was I going to say about Berlin? So because there's not electrolytes on course, what we can do is our own refreshments is how they call it. It's also labeled personal refreshments. And Eve's going to come say hello to everyone.
Oh, hi.
I thought she was going to behave, but she's okay. All right, baby. Look at this. She has her head on my desk. All right.
Sit.
You got to get down, baby.
On the other podcast, we were talking about how, the French dogs would understand French and French accents, like when they bark and stuff.
Quality content over there, per usual.
It's entertaining. What could I say? Okay, so in Berlin, we can place our own bottles on course or have them placed on course for us, which this was mind-boggling to me last year. So I was like, I have to try this. So it's called personal refreshment or own refreshment. And there's a truck in front of the entrance of like the Athlete Village area of race morning from 7 to 7:45 a.m. that you can leave your bottles with. The bottles can be any plastic bottle. They just can't be glass. And they have to be labeled with your bib number, your name. And then you get to pick if you want them at 9K, 15K, 20, 25, 30, or 36K. So you have 6 options.
How many thousands of people are running?
50? It's big.
And you're gonna find your bottle in that haystack.
I found it.
She found it.
Yeah, but you're out front. I don't know.
Well, it would be easier in the back because you have more time to watch.
Less bottles would be out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I just take someone else's bottle and be like, meh.
Well, I was going to tell you guys what mine look like. So if you find it, just drink it.
Right.
I'm going to put 3 out there. And I got some tape so I can decorate them like bright colors. And then I got rulers that I'm going to tape to the side. And I'm going to put these gram stickers from Nashville on them. Like on the top of the ruler.
Nice.
So hopefully I'll see my circles. Because I was looking back at the video I took of the truck last year. And everybody has flags or feathers on the top of theirs. So I'm like, if I put a flag or a feather.
Feathers seems naturally.
But
the way to go.
Not if everybody has it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's going to be my excursion this year of
what bottles? What kind of bottles are you using? Like, did you get them off Amazon or something?
I was going to buy some, and then I was cleaning out my cupboard and remembered I had 3 bike bottles from the 70.3 I did that I've never touched. And I'm like, just use those. Don't pay money for new ones. So
we have so many bottles.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to use bottles.
Like we have, every time somebody sends us something, they send a bottle now.
I have plenty of tape if you want, because I feel like you want them all to look the same because you don't know. Yeah. You're not going to remember like, oh, my first one was orange, just so that you're always looking for the same thing.
Are you bringing all of those supplies to Berlin?
Yeah, I'm going to do them there.
Okay.
We'll have a craft night.
Look how excited Megan just got.
Yeah. Arts and Crafts Day.
I think you guys we should do matching Sharpie tattoos for you guys.
Okay.
I'm in. I'll have a Sharpie so we can write on things. So that works.
Oh, I always bring a Sharpie.
Good. Yes. So that is an option at Berlin, which is not anywhere else. And it is just a very wild experience. Like I've said before, it's possible if you don't want to have to stop, like if you're going for time, that you'll miss them. So don't necessarily 100% bank on them, right? Like it's lovely if you find them. I'm hoping I find one of the 3 that I plan out there.
That's too nerve-wracking for me. I can't do that.
Well, but if you don't use it, you don't use it.
Yeah, don't bank on it, but put it out there.
It's like a bonus.
Yeah. Put it out there.
All right, let's talk about Chicago and New York. Do the rundown for nutrition, hydration. What do we got?
Yes. So Chicago is now a Morton-sponsored event. So that is new this year. In the past, they were always Gatorade gels, and now they have Morton gels. So they will be offered at miles 13.6, 18.2, and 23. So you'll have 3 opportunities to grab Morton on course in Chicago, if that's what you like to use, both regular and caffeinated. They also have 2 stops for Chiquita bananas, not just any banana, Chiquita bananas at 19 and a half
Chiquita
and 23.
Are my favorite.
You know?
I don't know a lot of different banana brands, but Chiquita is one I know.
Chiquita.
So
they've done well with their marketing then.
I will tell you, Morton now owns all the Ironmans. It owns Boston. You're saying it's Berlin, Chicago.
Chicago now. Yep.
People, you're going to just have to, if you want to go with on course. And I'll eat it on course.
Yeah. Why not, right? Actually, practice. Don't take my advice there. And as we know, the U.S. major marathons have hydration everywhere, right? It's like every mile almost in Chicago
I
has
love
both Gatorade
Chicago's.
Endurance and water. Yeah.
Their tables are like a
Yeah. It's like a
3
mile
city
long.
block longs. Yeah, they're insane.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. The one thing that I always, even no matter how many marathons I've run, I always get a little bit like, is that the water or the Gatorade? The water or the Gatorade, right? It's usually in different cups. So just make it easy on yourself and just look at what cups they have in their hand, or like the tablecloth. Sometimes that'll say, what it is. There are some prohibited items in Chicago. You cannot wear any vest. So even if it doesn't have a bladder, right? If it's just the front things, you still can't wear it. No vests in Chicago. You can use handheld or waist pack hydration. So go ahead and do that if you need to. The other thing that comes up often is there is one line in the Chicago stuff that says, quote unquote, please be aware you may be asked to empty the contents of these containers before entering Grant Park. So there's always some of my type A folks that get nervous that they're going to have to empty their hydration bottle before they go through security. I have never once heard of this happening, but it is in writing that it could happen. So if you're one of those people who gets a little nervous about it, pack an extra sachet of your hydration just in case they make you pour it. You can remix it once you're through. But again, I've never heard of that actually happening.
Okay, and then break it down for us in NYC.
NYC. So when you go to their aid stations to find out what gels they have, it says, please check back. So I'm assuming it's the same as last year, which was SIS gels. I know it's usually like a multi-year contract. So I'm assuming that it's still SIS gels, but that hasn't actually been published for this year's race. Last year, they were available at mile 12 and 18. They also have bananas, but we're not sure if they're Chiquita or not, at 21 and 23.
A lot of street food.
Oh, yeah.
Like people
That's
just
true.
handing you stuff.
You're right. There was a lot of options on the course last year. And then they also have every mile between miles 3 and 25, except for the bridges. So obviously that's a little different. They do have water and Gatorade Endurance Lemon Lime as well, just like Chicago did. So lots of options to stay hydrated. It's Poland spring water. I know people got mad when it was some other water a few years ago. It is back to Poland. Prohibited items, you can wear a vest, but it cannot have a bladder in the back of it. So it can only be one of those vests that just has the front pockets for the little water bottle type things. You can also wear handhelds, waist belts, those types of things. All the containers have to be less than a liter, but I don't know why we would carry more than a liter in one of them. And then at the Start Village, they do have Gatorade Endurance, Dunkin' coffee and tea and hot cocoa and bagels. So if you want to use some of that stuff in the Start Village, you can.
Yeah, New York's a journey, man. It's a whole day.
That race in itself, you could do a whole episode on just because of how the logistics. Like, I really do love Chicago is great. You get there, you get in your,
you just go,
your corral, and
nice.
it's just a constant going.
Yeah.
New York, you're pretty much camping for the first part of the day.
I just had this flashback to last year when Meg and I were in like the corral in the village before they let you walk up to the Start Corral. And there was this like booming voice over us. And I was like, I feel like I'm in the Hunger Games.
It is.
Like, may the odds be ever in your favor.
Yeah.
Like, where are we? What is about to happen? It was just a marathon. It was okay.
Yeah, that's always a fun morning.
It's wild.
Okay, do we want to run through any of these tips?
Yeah, let's give a few listener tips.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so these are from Instagram. Blake says, pick a rough mile somewhere 16 to 22 and assign it to be your gratitude mile. And the entire time you run that mile, think of all the reasons you're thankful to be doing what you're doing. Spend the entire mile doing that. It takes you out of your own head and resets you mentally for the end of the race. Also, the first handheld, and then chucking it. Oh,
that was my
first
bad.
half handheld and then chucking it is a game changer.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Meg kind of used this tip this past weekend during her race. She saw one of our friends who's injured right now who couldn't run cheering on the sideline. And you were in a kind of a dark spot, like a effort spot, right?
Yeah, I just didn't feel, it just wasn't a good day. It just felt pretty hard the whole time. And one of our friends who's super fast, he normally wins all these races, was out on the sidelines cheering. And I was like, he wishes he was out here racing. Mm-hmm. And so it just makes you appreciate just the fact that you're out there and you're able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved this from Blake. That's why I put it as number one, because it's so true. It's so easy to be like, this is hard, this hurts, this isn't how I thought this race was going to go. I put so much into this race. You know, we all have those thoughts. But truthfully, it's like, just be so grateful that we're out there on that day and experiencing the whole thing. Like, not everybody can do this, you know, like it's such so much to be thankful for.
I also look back, like a lot of times where there's been in the past few years where I've been disappointed with like a performance or something like that. And now I look back and I go, geez, I would kill to have that performance this time. So it's like, have some perspective. And I know that like, look, you're not going to be able to do this forever and you're going to slow down eventually. Might as well just have fun with it and enjoy being out there.
Right. I agree.
From Dina, this is a good one. When your coach says, don't go out too fast, obey them. We can all be reminded of that on the daily. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
TMI, but just pee your pants. So much time saved.
They did not want their name attached to that one, which I was like, okay, I can respect this. But do people really pee their pants at the beginning of the race?
In the beginning?
I think that's what they said, right? Oh, no.
I mean,
said.
I think nervousness. I will tell you that during a triathlon.
Yeah.
We kept dumping. It was really hot because you run like in the middle of the day pretty much. Yeah. And like I'm dumping so much water on me that like I was soaked already from water. Yeah. And I had to go and I was just like, you know what? I'm going the next. There's like every 50 feet or something. I forget how close. There was like water stations pretty close. So I was just like, whatever. And just went. And I was actually surprised you can do it while you're running.
Yeah. I mean, I might as well throw myself under the bus. Meg, do you want your tri-suit back? I peed in yours too.
That's okay. Same thing. I peed in it and then gave it to you. So.
Clearly, I didn't care. No, but it was like, I was like, there's no way I can get this whole wet, soaked, sweaty suit off of me. And then I was running and I just started to pee a little bit. And I was like, oh no, I should find a stop. And I'm like, no, just pee. Like, who cares? At this point, you've swam, you've biked, you're disgusting. Yeah. Like, but I've never done it in a running race. Water on it. Yeah. I don't know if I could do it in a running race. Yeah.
You're also out there so much longer in a triathlon.
That's true. Like how can you not have to pee? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Okay, let's go through a few more here. Angela said, practice your mental game just as much as you practice your marathon pace. That's solid.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm.
Chris said, channel your inner Megan or Megan and spelled it your way and my way. Way to go, Chris. I like that.
You notice he left me out there.
Yeah, he did. Alex said, drink your carbs during the carb load. Hydration plus carbs equals recipe for success. That is good too when you don't feel like eating another freaking bagel. Like, just drink it.
I love the liquid carbs because they're so much easier. But yeah.
Jules said similar. Consume an absurd amount of calories from carbs for 3 days leading up to the marathon.
I'm going to use a calculator for Berlin this time. I don't think I've ever used it. I think I just wing it. Like, I'm just eating carbs.
Yeah.
Christy said, nothing new on race day. No new socks, bras, shorts, gels, etc. Try it all out before the race. This is very true.
I need to take Christy's advice.
Yeah.
I have a lot new coming in for Berlin.
Yeah, we don't even know what we're wearing yet. It's okay.
Everything's going to be fine.
Abby said, grams, good music, open mind. I'm down with all of it. The music, I just like taking in the crowds.
Same.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at race day, you got to leave them behind. Now, with that said, those new Bose open ear headphones, where you can kind of like get the best of both worlds. You can put have that beat kind of softly in the background while you have the ability to listen. But what I'm really excited about, and I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet, but I'm leaning towards it, is in Berlin running with Aubrey. So, obviously when you're running with someone, you want to be able to hear and chat and pull each other through the tough spots.
All right, let's end with this one from Kim. She said, be present, enjoy the, crowd. Enjoy the crowd. High five spectators, feel the energy, and use it as fuel.
I like that, but what word were you getting confused with crowd?
Crown was written here. I'm going to blame Megan.
I typed it wrong. Yeah, it's me. I was typing it in soccer practice last night.
I like enjoying the crown.
Yeah, enjoy the crown afterwards. Yeah. Just, Embrace
Do we all
it.
need crowns? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give one other tip. You're often trying to project into the future during these races, so it's good to stay present. Although I always get motivated by thinking if I just get there, I can have a beer or I can have like whatever it is that's your reward at the finish. Just like sometimes I've gone through an entire mile of being like, this sucks. And I'm like, closer to beer, closer to beer, closer to beer. And, I know that glow, that fun, warm finisher. I know that Megan and Megan will be waiting for me at the finish. And we have that time to celebrate.
I do need to warn you, the beer at the finish line of Berlin Marathon is NA.
Since you can leave your own bottles, you could just have them filled with vodka all the time.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
I would like my bottle at the finish line, please.
Yeah. I would like a finishing line bottle, please.
Wait, what was the last 36K? Nah, you could carry it for the last 5K.
That's when I'll shake it.
The best would be is if you only put like booze in that one and they messed it up and then it was on an earlier one.
And you chugged it.
Mistakes.
But how good would this be? You get to that 36K, you ask them to fill it with ice because you only put a couple ounces in there, right? And then you shake basically your martini to the finish.
This always sounds well and good in discussion, but anytime I'm in a marathon, I'm like, anybody comes close to me with a shot, with a beer, like get away from me. Like that is the last thing I ever want when I'm running.
Yeah. I did a shot of beer in New York when you came through Central Park. There was some, you're like a mile left, and there was some women with little tiny red Solo cups that they were filling with beer.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I said I was going to do it in Chicago last year or in New York, and I was like, absolutely not. Like once I'm out there, I'm like, no.
We had fun anyway.
We did have so much fun. We didn't need it.
Okay, so I hope everyone has really great fall racing and you use these tips. And Megan has a ton of resources on her website. If you are still confused, there's the carb loading calculator. What else is on there that they might want?
There's a fuel calculator, like how often to take your specific gel. You can plug in like how many grams of carbs are in what you use, and it'll tell you how often, however minutes you need to take it. There's a bunch of hydration stuff, like how much sodium do I need? How much fluid should I use? Yeah, there's tons. They're all on my website under resources. They're all just stacked under there. It's just a drop down at the top.
Okay, perfect. So good luck to everyone racing. Thank you as always for listening. And if you have a question we haven't answered, you can send us an email at fuelforthesoulpodcast@gmail.com and we will answer it here on the show.
I'm preparing some diced carrots with a small plate of peas.
Bye.
Bye. That was so weird.
Maybe cut that part out.
Okay. What?
She sounds like she's talking like you do with the, like no flavor, no. Sit, play.
Speaking dog.
I'm just going to put it out there.
Just gonna put it out there. See what lands.
See what happens, Anything could happen.
Oh my gosh, that's weird.
Well, that's how good these mushrooms are. You're going to think you're in Paris instead of at the Brandenburg Gate.
And I was like, I feel like I've made it. Like Diplo's people are like my people.
Yeah.
Sachet. Isn't that what it's called? Sachet.
I don't know.
It's SACHET, right?
A little packet. A little packet.
It's a packet.
A sachet. Oui, madame.